Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 2 of the Halo series review series from Game Informer. I am Alex Stadnick, and we appreciate you joining us today. My co-host, Mr. Van Aken, is taking a well-deserved break today, so you can find him on episode 3 of this series. But thank you for tuning in. The reviews of the review series have been positive so far, so we're happy to be here. But let's introduce the rest of the panel. EIC himself, Andrew Reiner, in the building. Hello, sir.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing well. That's kind of an angsty well after watching that episode. Not to tip my hand on what I think, but yeah just well.
Yeah. Well, one of the bright parts of my day, though, is Brian Shea is also here. Hello.
Hey, that episode was not a bright part of my day.
So let's get my hand. Yeah. We'll jump in right away. So this is the Halo series review. We are going episode by episode, week by week, letting you know the highs, the lows of the Paramount Plus Halo TV show. And when I say highs and lows, there was a lot of lows in this episode. So
when you say highs and lows, you're talking relatively.
Relatively speaking, of course. So episode 2, it's called Unbound. And my criticism for this episode will probably be Unbound as well.
Unbound from the Halo franchise.
For real. This is an episode, it's like an Always Sunny in Philadelphia episode where nothing really happens, but at least Always Sunny was a little bit more entertaining. So it takes place moments after Chief and Quan flee Reach, get away from the UNSC because the UNSC has tasked Master Chief to kill Quan, an insurgent, a rebel from Madrigal, this planet that we saw in the first episode, right? First episode, we had some action, right? Chief was killing things left and right, and had his helmet on for the majority of the episode. And then in episode 2, they decided to say, nope, we're not doing any of that. So you come to find out Chief and Quan are headed to this asteroid city, very reminiscent of Guardians of the Galaxy or Star Wars, right? It feels like there's a lot more Star Wars inspiration in this thing.
It's the set from Demolition Man. Let's not mince that. It 100% is the same set.
There you go. If I would have seen Demolition Man, I would agree with you wholeheartedly.
You just saw it. Yeah. You just saw it.
There you go. And there's this weird moment that I laughed out loud. It's like 1 a.m. I was watching it by myself, and I laughed out loud because they get to the city, right? And you can tell it's like kind of Mos Eisley, scum, villainy, like that kind of stuff, and they all corner Chief. They're like, oh, a Spartan's here, and they train their guns on him and stuff like that. And then there's this moment where they drive a forklift in between Chief and like the leader, who we'll talk about in a second, right? And I was like, wait a minute, there's like 6 other ways he could get around this. I'm pretty sure there's a way around on the other side of the corner, right? And
this
they were all
like,
we got him. Yeah.
This is the most loyal to video games that they are in the entire series, because you know that if there's a minor inconvenience in the path, you cannot clear that path until you do the other objective.
Yeah. Right. And the look of victory on some of these people's faces was like, what is happening here? They're like, we got him. Yeah.
Didn't we see Chief jump like 20 feet in the air? Couldn't he have just like easily cleared that?
We're retconning
but what does he do?
1.
Yeah, what does he do?
Yeah.
He literally pushes it out of the way.
Yeah, like one-handed he does it. I was like, oh, I mean, like, you're trying to show his strength. That's cool, I guess. But like, this is the weirdest thing like I can imagine. Yeah. At least that's what I thought of this moment. So we come to find out, though, that Sauron is the leader of this area, right? And we get a flashback sequence of Sauron, because Sauron was a former Spartan. He was a friend of John's in the Spartan program. He was like Sauron 066 or something like that. Yep. And the sequence that confirms the theory that we all had, that Chief is actually a narc in real life, because Sauron is fleeing the program, citing how, in the flashback, right, he's citing how oppressive it is, how evil Halsey is, right, for this and that kind of stuff. And John has his gun trained on him, and he's like, I'm gonna kill you if you leave. And I was like, what is this characterization of this? I don't know. What did you guys think of the flashback sequence?
It was basically them like trying to establish, like, literally as I'm watching that, I'm removed from the entire immersion of the episode, because I'm thinking in my head, oh, this is where they established that he has always been like a by the books, brainwashed Spartan. And then like that's why this is such a big deal for him. But they could have done that over multiple seasons instead of doing this heavy-handed flashback of him like saying, I'm going to kill you or alert the entire camp or whatever, like on your way out. So you have 5 minutes. So like that's me being like merciful.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, you're thinking, okay, this is where we're going to see him shoot this guy in the head. He is just all about the Spartan program. He's the perfect soldier. Exactly what they've been talking about him being until he touched that Covenant device, right? And then all of a sudden he was reawakened. But no, it turns out that there's humanity in Chief, and he gives this guy a chance. 066, you got 5 minutes to run away, basically.
Right.
And at that point, I'm like, your whole setup in episode 1 is a wash now.
Yeah, well, also, if they were trying to remind us that there's humanity in Master Chief, they already do that because that helmet's never going back on his head.
It's literally an inconvenience at this point because he has to carry it around everywhere. It's like, why? What's the point of even having the helmet then? You should just oh my God.
You know where it should be? It should be on your head, not in your hands.
Correct.
And there's a point in this episode where he puts his helmet on and they treat it like a reward to the viewer, like it's on. And it's like a triumphant moment. He kind of almost breaks the fourth wall looking at you, and you're like,
right,
dude, what is this?
And he takes it off again. Like, yeah. And then he's out of uniform a ton and stuff like that. And this is a weird complaint, right? Because I feel like this is like, I don't know if like the average family's going to care about this, right? But it's like, why is he Master Chief if you're literally just going to treat him like he is? Because that's the beauty of Chief, right? This mysterious, stoic warrior, right? And we don't get any of that in this, especially in this episode, right? And I understand you're trying to make him more relatable, right? But it's just, I think it's not working. Like it's because it's taking away so much of what I love from Chief from the games and what I know of him beforehand.
Yeah, and it's not just the helmet, right? Like right now with the helmet, they're just messing with the fans. Like they're upsetting fans by it because of how they're using it. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
I don't get it. And the lowest point of this episode, which I think we're getting close to, is there's a point where he kind of bonds with a child.
Mm-hmm.
And the child has a stamper, one of those rubber stampers, and puts a stamp of a smiley face on Chief's hand. And Chief is like, what is this? And it's like,
it's a smiley face, bro.
Yeah, it's exactly. But it's like, he's bonded with you. And Chief's like, why, thank you, like, but then they go one step further and they reflect on the smiley face again. Yep. And they show it kind of worn. And I'm like, that messaging, that imagery, I am so out.
Yeah, right?
Like, this is, not only does it have nothing to do with Halo, any of this, or the established Halo universe, but it is the cheesiest messaging you could think of in terms of trying to make someone seem human. It is so dumb.
Yeah. You know what's going to happen, right?
So much.
Yeah. You know what's going to happen, right? Episode 4 or 5, there's going to be the Covenant will discover like the asteroid cluster, right? And they'll tear it apart and Chief will get there too late and he'll look through the rubble and all he'll see is a hand sticking out of the rubble with a smiley face on it. And that'll inspire him to take it to the Covenant once more.
I was thinking he would be going through a hard time or like he'd lose someone or something like that. And he would like, of course, he's not going to be wearing the Spartan outfit. Why would he?
Of course.
And he's going to look down at his hand. And he's going to be like, see like a faded smiley face. And he'll be like, it's not so bad.
Yeah. What I want I want him to die. I want to put him out of his misery at this point for what he's going through. And as he's dying in his own blood, I want him on a wall just to draw that smiley face. And then as he makes the mouth, he's just like,
like trails off. Yeah.
I couldn't believe what they did with him in this episode. I was like, this is going to upset a lot of people.
Did you notice, by the way, while we're on the topic of like how much they're straying from like the source material, I don't know the exact verbiage, but they don't say inspired by the Halo games or the Halo novels or anything. It says inspired by the Halo universe of games.
I didn't notice
They make it very clear that it's like inspired by the universe.
Well, yeah. And it really does feel like, I mean, we're jokingly, but also not kidding with our criticisms here, but it's like, it really does feel like they tried to make this feel like Star Wars more than Halo. Right.
Or anything else. Yeah. It doesn't feel more like Kurt Russell's Soldier movie. Like,
right.
really, it's almost a clone of that movie. It's like, what are we
Well,
doing?
and especially after this episode, I'm like, if this is the Halo series, fine, but like, don't have Chief be the main character. Like, if this is a random Spartan, right? That's better, but it's still like, I'm not enjoying the writing. I'm not enjoying some of the choices. But getting back to the story, right? The flashback happens. We're introduced to Sauron, who is in 20 years later or whatever it is. So the adult version. We're gonna dunk a lot in this episode. I'm sorry.
He's Shocker from Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Oh yeah, that's right. I don't know the actor's name, but he's very good. He's been in a bunch of stuff before. But like, he's like, I think they're billing him as kind of like the good buddy, like kind of comic relief, like chin up, Chief, like you're gonna be fine. But like to demonstrate Halsey and the Spartan program's cruelty, he's like, yeah, I lost an arm. But it's this weird prosthetic that is so unnerving and like unrealistic that it's like, it's this puffy, like, and you can see like he has metal under it and stuff like that. And it took me out of the experience immediately. I was like, what the hell is this? Like, you can do a lot of cooler things, I feel like, than that, a weird, like, puffed out arm. And he's supposed to be like really strong with it, right? So
I would say a lot of the costumes on this asteroid, like his wife, is like, do you know you're in a Halo sci-fi? No,
nope. Okay,
you got the wrong props.
So yeah,
it's too late to change. We're just gonna have you be a part of this universe.
They literally they had leftover props from Picard, and they're like, all right, well, I guess we're just gonna bring that in. So so you're introduced to Sauron's family. Sauron's like, look at my life. This is true freedom. This is what I ran away from. We're introduced to his Star Trek bride and his son. Meanwhile, Quan, we're kind of introduced to through Quan's story, and then through being back on Reach in the military council. We are introduced to potentially another series villain, the leader of the insurgents who took over, the UNSC installed into Madrigal. His name is, hold on, I gotta find it. He's like, they show he is really like gonna be one of the big bads. I can't find his name at the moment, but because they show a flash to Madrigal in the moment, right? And he's like killing random people. Like, he's trying to be like very charismatic, very Joker-esque, like, oh, this one, like that one fell funny or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, very much like evil villain. They really are heavy-handed with that. And once again, they're trying to prove that the UNSC is very one-minded, right? Like, they're trying to maintain control wherever they can get it, and they don't care who they put in charge. And these very evil persons, apparently, we're led to believe. So I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I like that actor a lot. He's from Torchwood. I don't know if you've seen that.
By the way, the guy we were talking about before who played adult Sauron is Bokeem Woodbine. That's what I was looking up.
Okay.
His actor name.
Cool.
But like, I like him as a antagonist. So that kind of setup worked for me. That was one of two moments in the show where I was interested in what was happening. The other was when they were talking about the Cortana program. Like that whole thing, I was like, this is a pretty good beef that they have between each other. The two people in that department, and then just setting it up, how they're talking about how it can help the Spartans. And I was like, this is interesting.
Right. Yeah. So, and on the topic of Cortana, I do need to issue an apology to the Halo fans out there. Last week, we bemoaned the storyline of the clone, right? How off-putting it was and how we didn't like it. And a couple of you have pointed out nicely, by the way, too, nice feedback is good, right? That apparently that is technically canon, that Halsey, the Cortana program came from a clone of Halsey, and they extracted it from Halsey's clone's brain. So that is real. I still don't jive with it, but I would like to say that we were off base on that one. So apologies. But anyways, yes, there is the militaristic council. We're introduced to Lord Hood in this episode. And I miss Ron Perlman's voice, but it is what it is. The guy was fine.
The council was great. I thought that works. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're like, what are we going to do with Chief? Like, what's happening? And basically Cortana gets approved in a limited fashion, right? Chief is going to be the test subject for this. So,
right.
So moving through it.
So hopefully, I mean, it seems like the Cortana is going to be like some way to try to control Chief from the UNSC perspective. Hopefully that means that we're going to get like old Chief back. And this is just like a detour.
Right. Well, because in this, because in the games, you very much love the relationship between Chief and Cortana. It is a symbiotic relationship. They're there to help each other, right? But in this, they're positioning it as UNSC wants these soldiers, Spartans, to be the ultimate killer, listen to everything, and it is basically a way to ensure their mind control, their brainwashing works. So I think that's an interesting plot point that I'm excited to see move forward. But we got to get through a lot of stuff before we get to that. So, I'm trying to think what else happened. So we were introduced to the fact that Cortana is
prison
approved.
cells, whatever. Let's talk about that.
So one of the reasons why Chief went to this asteroid colony was to escape the UNSC, but also to get answers on what this piece of tech is that he stole from the Covenant in episode 1, right? And he gets to this really weird mental hospital, prison. I don't know what it is. It's like not done super well. And they meet this guy who is who's been he's escaped the Covenant. He's been captured by the Covenant. It's very 1960s, 70s pulp sci-fi, right? Where it's like, I survived and the aliens are coming though. They're always around us.
He's just the guy from Independence Day.
Yeah, exactly. He's very manic and he's telling his stories about the Covenant, right? And he forces Chief's hand to touch the piece of tech, right? I'm calling it the Forerunner tech, the artifact. Thank you. Yeah. And it once again it triggers a memory for Chief, but it also, in combination with the Covenant scene that we'll talk about in a second, they finally mention Halo, the actual rings, right? He gets this vision of these weapons in space, right? Everyone's freaking out. There's this energy surge and whatnot. And on the flip side of that, the Covenant, which I think the Prophets are probably some of the best looking sci-fi in this series so far. I think they look really cool. And some of the comments pointed out I think it's because they did have people on set and then they kind of crafted around them. So it feels a little bit more lifelike, which is cool. But so we're finding out who this human in the Covenant is. It's this person who was taken in by the Covenant when she was young, and she feels like she is a member of them. And basically, she is I believe her name is like Maki. Does that sound right? Makee.
I couldn't tell you. You could give me 100 guesses.
Mistakey?
Yeah, something. Exactly. Yeah. And so the Covenant are like, we have to send someone to get the artifact, right? Because they too also know that it is connected to the rings. So we're starting to get finally the story of the Covenant discovering, the rings and that kind of stuff. They know about it, right? But that's why they wanted this artifact. And she's like, no, I'm going to do this. I can sneak around the humans much easier than you can, which true. That's very true. I was going to ask you guys about this. I was excited to talk about this. Are they getting at Are they getting at that like Sauron's wife is the mother of this child because they're the only two people with white hair in the series so far? Are they going to do that?
I hope not. What I think they're going to do is this could be a potential love interest for Master Chief. I kid you not. I see this like through line building up of like he's becoming more human. He's learning about things. They're doing things like what it's like to be human, like taste. They go into taste in this episode, and Chief's like, I don't taste anything. He's like, don't worry, it'll come back. You know what that means? They're going to explore all of his human elements coming back. You have this person that's off in a different society, that's been removed from humanity, that's dealing with the exact same thing, potentially.
Right.
Reading books, there's some humanity there. She's reading books. They're going to come together and then I'm going to
smoochy.
Projectile vomit.
Oh man, I thought my theory was upsetting, but yeah, that's it.
That's my take where it's going, and you just see the exact same thing happening on two sides, basically.
Right.
Oh boy.
So,
Oh
yeah,
boy.
Shay, any thoughts on that?
No,
No, okay.
no.
None that you want to
I
share.
hope that like she goes to like board her ship to go to like the humans, and she like opens up the port, and whoops, nobody parked the ship out there, and she just gets sucked into space, and that's the end of the storyline.
And that's it.
I
See
hope you're
bye.
right, Brian, though. I hope that Cortana brings back the chief we like, and all of a sudden it's the show that we expected or we're hoping for.
Right.
Maybe all
So,
this humanity stuff will just be washed away.
yeah. So, the episode is reaching its end, right? It's kind of the prep phase, right? It feels like it's starting to launch into what the actual story is of this. Chief drops Quan off at the asteroid colony, right? In what I'm sure every Halo fan was looking for, right? We get a weird naked shot of Maki, or the Covenant lady. It was like, oh yeah, that's exactly what we were asking for, right? And so Quan is kind of sitting on the sidelines now. She's gonna stay with Sauron. So I would imagine the paths seem to be like, especially establishing this villain on Madrigal, right? Quan and Sauron may take that up as a charge, right? Chief is going to meet up, or Chief does go back to Reach, right? He sets his beacon. His silver team comes, gets him. The episode is ending on him meeting back with Halsey, right? And it's this weird exchange of like him looking at Halsey as like maybe a mother figure, like, or like at least like maybe like equals, like he's divulging everything to her, right? He's like talking about his memories and that kind of stuff. And Halsey, who I think is probably the best actor portrayal so far, right, is like loving it. She's like, I'm gonna help you, like we're gonna get through this together, like it's great. And she's just licking her chops because she's gonna, hopefully, because in the games and the books, right, Halsey does have a weird love for Chief, right? It's stronger. It's a love that is like, yes, he's our only hope, right? She unequivocally knows that, but it is like he is special to her, and you get a little taste of that in this scene, and which I like. There's a complex nature to that relationship that I thought was maybe the highlight of the show, right? But man, this episode was a dud.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did I miss anything? I went through that kind of quickly.
The unnecessary minecart sequence.
Like what was up with that? Like those were my two notes.
I was like, the CG's cool. The asteroid sequence was cool.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that colony would still exist with all those asteroids zipping around like that, but whatever. It works visually. It works.
What does it say?
I have to blur that one if we're censoring, because I said they're never going to put that helmet on again, are they? That's my one note. And the second note is, what is that cart roller coaster thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
But not only was it just like unnecessary when it's on the track, but then it like launches through the air in a dangerous way and lands on a cable. And I'm like, who made this?
How many people would die on that a week, do you think? Maybe that's how they like control the population. Yeah.
And like Quan is the only one reacting appropriately, because the thing is not just like going fast down the tracks. It's like careening sideways as like
barking. Yeah.
All it took would like be for Chief to be standing on the other side of it, and you're flipping that thing. Like it's just a little bit of weight.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was, when I saw that, I was like, CG's good. They got a good budget, but it's like, I don't understand what I'm watching right now.
Right. Yeah. It's so, CG has been really hit or miss, but in that sequence, I was like, oh, this is cool. This feels grounded, or not grounded, but it feels like it's a place, right? They did a good job on setting it up.
Are they trying to say this guy, maybe we shouldn't trust him so much? There's something, like with this sequence that's lining up with him, 066. I don't know.
Yeah.
They should really have like appealed to the fans of Halo 2. Didn't Hoobastank do a song for Halo 2?
Yes,
they should have done a Hoobastank song while they were on that minecart.
Or Breaking Benjamin. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I do love that song. Yeah, I'm trying to see my notes. Chief is a narc, apparently. I said my favorite note I wrote was ha 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 ha, the effing forklift scene. It's still one of the goats. Like this is if this season, if we only get 2 seasons of this, that'll unequivocally be one of the best moments.
That and the smiley face. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So, they went there.
I think the big takeaway of this is Sauron, right? His introduction as a character. I think the actor is good. I think the writing for him is not great, right? Because of the we're gonna get through this, like good buddy type of like attitude he brought to it, and I don't know. We'll see.
The only thing that would have made this episode better / worse would have been if they went to the first person view when he was either pushing the forklift out of the way or when he was getting his hand stamped by the kid.
Yeah, you can really feel it from his perspective.
Yeah.
We're
all Chief.
That was a bad episode, and I liked the first episode, and I feel like I don't know many shows that have fallen that much between singular episodes like that.
Right.
It was dramatic. It really was like, wow, they went whole different direction.
And usually shows when they have that big of a drop off, it's like they'd already established so much goodwill. Like a lot of people didn't like that the Coach Beard episode of Ted Lasso, but like you already had 2 full seasons of like amazingly strong goodwill already established. So it's like we could tolerate a less well liked episode, but this one, no goodwill already established.
I also like the Coach Beard episode. I'm just gonna throw that out there, but
at least that stuck true to him. Like it was a falling down moment, and this is just very much like, who is this character? What is happening?
Right.
Where are they going?
I'm really hoping, and why I'm choosing to be a little hopeful for what's to come, right, is I feel like they got hopefully more of the story out of the way, right? You've established it, right? You've mentioned Halo now. You've set kind of the board for the characters who are going to be in play here. Now I hope it's like actually getting to the story, right? We know about Chief, like hopefully Cortana. Here's what I'm worried about though. I'm worried this whole season is going to be the intro to Cortana. Like I'm worried it's going to be like everything on Reach is like building to this, and then the last shot of this season is going to be, "Hello, Master Chief. I am Cortana."
They've already been saying "Hello, Master Chief" in the trailers.
Yeah. And I'm terrified that's going to be like the last scene of this season. I'm like, oh, if that's what we're building to the entire time,
it can't be.
Get me out of here.
It can't be.
I hope it happens this next episode.
I hope so. I hope you're right, because then it's like, okay, maybe we'll get back to fighting the Covenant in the next episode, because they're going to send John back out, right? He's going to be united with Silver Team. We're going to have the conflict on Madrigal with Sauron, right? And Quan, presumably, right? We'll see who takes on the big bad there. But I'm really hoping this next episode brings some firepower, because we need that, like Chief needed a rocket launcher when facing the Scarab. Like, because if next episode is all exposition like it was in this one, then it's like we're gonna move this to a spoiler cast of Elden Ring or something like that. Because
we're out.
Yeah, because we're gonna need something. I'm sad how disappointing this has been to start. Because
again, I thought there was some high points in that first episode. They just need to get back on that track.
Yeah. So I'm not willing to give up hope quite yet, but this episode was I was looking forward to the rebound, but yeah, unfortunately this is a dud. So and this was I was like, okay, tolerant / I like find this representation or this portrayal of Master Chief. But this episode, I just didn't like him. And I think, like I said, because I was like, oh, he really is. He's just a narc. So we'll see. We shall see. Viewers, I am fascinated to hear what you think about this. Please let us know in the comments what you thought, what we missed, right? Like I said, your feedback has been very helpful. We will be back next week for another recap of episode 3 will be next week. I think Alex will be back for that. And yeah, well, Godspeed. Yeah. I may just go play Infinite.
Only up from here. Only up from here.
It has to be, right?
Nowhere else you can go.
Yeah. So Reiner,
did a single gun go off in this episode?
Nope. They threatened it a couple of times.
They did.
Yeah.
Yep. But no shoosting. So, and that's the thing is like, it sounds childish almost to be like, there was no action, so I don't like it. But like, one of the main highlights is the action from that first episode. So, and Halo is an action series. It's a sci-fi series, and so far we haven't really seen a ton of that. So
this is a different medium. They could do more story stuff, sure, but you can't betray exactly what the franchise is through a full episode. Like it didn't feel Halo at all, in my opinion. Anyway,
they have struggled to find that balance of that. So here's hoping they can better strike that. There's plenty of shows that start rough and end strong. So we shall see next week. But thank you. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you feel like it, give a review on iTunes. It helps us a ton. Be good to one another, and we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.